2 p.m. Central African time, and while the clock may simply mark the time here on Market View, it marks the pulse of business, shifting, evolving, as well as defining economies. I'm Sifiso Ngumalo, inviting you to an edition where today's headlines are more than just stories. They are signals of the trends that are shaping our future. Let's look at our agenda today. We want to look at global recognition for the Kingdom of Eswatini. The central bank's 50 Emalangeni anniversary banknote has earned the prestigious Best New Commemorative Banknote Award in Basel, Switzerland. We'll explore what this accolade means for the bank's leadership in currency innovation. We also want to look at the inflation today and focus mostly on the governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini, who has said that the reduced 8% tariff hike will slow down inflationary pressures compared to the earlier projected 14.67%. What factors influence these monetary policy decisions, and what does it mean for your pocket as well as my pocket? We also have our Enterprise Watch segment. We want to look at the climate change that isn't just a global issue, but it's personal, especially for the 14 youth-led agribusinesses recently hit hard by torrential rains, with damages valued at 200,000 emalangeni. We want to hear from Mandla Nkambule, the CEO of the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund, on their new mandatory agribusiness insurance loan that is designed to cushion young entrepreneurs against such disruptions. And of course, we are going to close the market analysis with Sanele Sibiya helping us to break down the numbers that are steering the markets of the day. Let's dive right into everything by looking at business news today. On our first story, the Kingdom of Eswatini has achieved global recognition as the Central Bank of Eswatini's 50 Emalangeni anniversary banknote has won the prestigious Best New Commemorative Banknote Award. Now, the highly coveted award was presented on Tuesday evening in Basel, Switzerland, during the Reconnaissance High Security Printing Europe Middle East Africa Region Conference, which is a leading forum for the most innovative and secure document technologies globally. The governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini, Dr. Mnisi, says this achievement is a testament to the bank's commitment to excellence and innovation in the field of currency design and security.
His Majesty King Mswati III unveiled the winning commemorative 50 Emalangeni banknote on the 10th of May 2024, when the central bank celebrated its 50th Golden Jubilee. On the same day, His Majesty also launched the 50th anniversary non-circulating commemorative coin, which also won a global award last year in Portugal. The commemorative banknote started circulating in September 2024 and celebrates Eswatini's economic achievements over the past 5 decades. It highlights the nation's cultural rich heritage, environmental beauty, tourism, technological innovations, and infrastructural achievements of Eswatini. For the printing of this anniversary currency, the Central Bank of Eswatini partnered with GND, Geiseke Devrient, who provided a sustainable banknote that minimizes the environmental footprint of currency production. The unique banknote is crafted from a blend of organic cotton and certified cellulose sourced from sustainable forestry, and it is therefore a green banknote. The 50 commemorative banknote, printed by GND, celebrates the Eswatini cultural heritage, its environmental assets, and the significant strides we have made in finance, technology, and infrastructure. The banknote is part of the bank's commitment to sustainability and environmental responsibility, aligning with the environment, social, and governance ESG protocol, and it also aligns with the bank's strategic initiative of greening the central bank. This award represents legacy, not just for the central bank, but for the entire Kingdom of Eswatini. The Central Bank of Eswatini wishes to express deep gratitude to their majesties, government, and the nation at large for their continued support, counsel, and guidance as we implement the bank's mandate as provided for in our statutes. Issuance and redemption of currency is one of the core mandates of the central bank. And from time to time, we renew the features of the notes to ensure that they remain high security. And with time, and especially with issues of the environment, climate change, we are beginning to adapt the notes so that they are environmentally friendly and climate change compliant. So this to us is critical in terms of the strategic direction. So the note has to speak or is speaking to how the central bank is contributing in the carbon footprint protection of the country. So that is very key. Now, in terms of how it benefits the nation, with a high quality note of this standard, it stays longer in the hands of the people, which means your note in your hand remains protected in terms of the high quality security features, and secondly, it does not deteriorate much quicker. That contributes to the economic activity of the country. It's a quite technical, we call it the value of seigniorage. In other words, the longer the note stays in the hands of the people, the more bolstered is our economic contribution.
The governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini says 8% reduced tariff hike will play a significant role in cushioning inflation, as which will be at lesser impact compared to the initial 14.67%. The governor explains about some of the things that are considered during the monetary policy formulation.
The Central Bank of Eswatini revised the inflation forecast to 5.25% from a previous 4.87% in its inflation forecast released on Tuesday. Given the upward revision in the inflation outlook, we asked the Governor, Dr. Phil Mnisi, on the projected monetary policy path.
Looking at the indicators, I am delighted with the announcement of the electricity increase. At the figure of almost 15% was certainly going to fuel inflation quite aggressively. I'm not saying that at the 8% it's not going to do so, but it will be at a lesser impact. The revised inflation outlook, it's not the only measure or indicator we use for policy formulation, but it is a contributor. We are not inflation targeting as a bank and as part of our monetary policy, but we look at the increases in prices, we look at financial stability, credit to the private sector, growth in non-performing loans, regional geopolitical issues. So it is an aggregated macroeconomic barometer that we look at that will inform the policy. At the moment, we have got an accommodative monetary policy. We kept the interest rates low. We are maintaining a 50% differential from South Africa. So I will not necessarily say the inflation outlook is suggesting otherwise, but it will be looked contextually. But for now, the about 50 basis points increase from the previous outlook is well justified, looking especially on increases in administered prices, mainly increases in water, increases in electricity, and any other energy input into the inflation basket.
With the revised inflation, the bank cited the United States' change in trade policies posing risks to exchange rates and oil prices as one of the reasons for the revision. For Market View, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vominkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
That is how we end our business news segment. We will go for a net break. When we return, we look at our Enterprise Watch segment.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Welcome back to the program. The recent torrential rains that have ravaged infrastructure in the country have not spared businesses belonging to young people under the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund, as 14 of them were affected. The damage, valued at about 200,000 emalangeni, as climate change continues to disrupt weather patterns. The fund has now decided to introduce a mandatory agribusiness insurance loan that is partnering with Lidwala Insurance Company. To get more insights on the insurance loan business, journalist Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla had a conversation with the CEO, Mandla Nkambule.
CEO, welcome to the show. We've learned that you've introduced a mandatory insurance for businesses funded by the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund. We know that the effects of climate change are upon us. My first question to you is, how many businesses have been impacted by the effects of climate change that you have funded as a fund, and what is the total cost?
The last 2 or 3 weeks were torrential rains which resulted in floods. Those torrential rains have significantly affected our young people or clients who are doing crops, as some of their crops were submerged in water and they've been affected. Some have developed diseases. We have also seen heat waves, which is high temperatures, where some of our young people who are doing broilers were also affected. I think we had reports where the chicks died due to the heat waves. We have also received reports where some of the young people who are also doing in agriculture, in the crop production, where their equipment, the irrigation systems, pumps, pipes, were washed away by the floods. The reported incident, what we are dealing with now, which have been reported, which we'll be presenting to the board for special emergency and recovery fund, because we need to quickly intervene and provide some funding for them to resuscitate their businesses. We are talking about 14, which is their requirements in terms of how we can resuscitate their business. They need something like plus minus 200,000. The effects are very, very high. So I think it has then the need to come up with a mandatory insurance agri product. We introduced the product last year, but we gave the young people some kind of optional to say if they wish, they should take up the loan with one of the reputable service providers, which is Lidwala Company. But we have noted that they've not taken the loans, they've not taken the insurances up to date. Hence, then now affected, are being exposed to these erratic weather conditions. So we are looking at to say we need to kind of come up with modalities to say insurance should be part of the loan, where at least to protect them.
How will this insurance CO be tailored according to the different needs of these small agri-businesses? Ema insurances lamaneng, you find that maybe they are for people who already have money, and yet these are startup businesses.
The insurance with Dwala, we have designed a special insurance product for the young people, which is also have got low premiums in terms of rates, where we are covering all agri products, including assets for drought, fires, floods, thefts, even if their livestock gets injured gets injured during in transit. So we have looked at that. The key thing is to cover them on the input costs. So if their clothes, their products get damaged by disaster, by all the other perils I've mentioned, then they will be basically compensated fully. So hence the need for that insurance. It's one of the mitigations we are basically considering as an organization. The rates, the premiums, they range between 2% to maximum 4% on the input costs.
Don't you think, CEO, that introducing the insurance will now be a deterrent? Maybe young people will feel like, oh, now I have to pay more to the youth fund. Maybe me and you understand the importance of insurance, but I have to ask this question because it's something that I got from some of the youth organizations.
That is very true because of lack of knowledge and information. But insurance you should not look at it from a cost perspective. You should look at it from a business expense to say it's a must. Your business must be insured against, I think if you look at the products range, even your vehicle must insure, your assets you must insure against fire or theft. You've got insurance even for loss of profits. So I think we should be basically training them on the understanding. The major issue I'm bringing up is the lack of financial literacy for most of our young people to understand in terms of the risk associated with their businesses. Because if you understand the risk associated with their business, then you always look for the risk mitigation measures. So that is one. I personally don't see it as a deterrent once they understand that it will serve. In fact, it will give them more confidence to enter into this kind of high risk business because they know that they are covered somehow in terms of potential losses or damages or against theft. We also have issues even right now where some of especially the young people doing livestock, where we have seen an increase on theft of their chicks, pigs, and other things. These are things we find that they now has got an direct impact on their profitability.
Now that you have introduced the insurance CEO, will the protocols change now, like to say someone who applies for the youth fund maybe needs to do things like soil testing?
I think for me it will be more to say how do we fully commercialize agriculture, where we have to come up with new rules. But for now we'll continue because must remember our fund is development. It's basically trying to come as an intervention on the current poverty issues as well as the high unemployment rates among the youth. That is very, very key. However, we definitely need to take them to another level to commercialize, where we'll be coming up with even in some of these agri products, come up with minimum standards. For example, if you want to grow maize, what is the break-even point in terms of the gross profit margins? We are looking at to say you cannot commercialize in a less than 3 hectare for beans with less than 1 hectare. Because end of the day, one thing we have noted as an impact failure for them to be able to pay back the money is because already the business from scratch, the business has been making losses. And they were saying, let's put some kind of science behind the assessments. However, there is also another way we want to assist to say, the other way, they can still have the small pieces, but can we cluster? Maybe let's say in one area or community, we cluster them they've got 0.5 hectares and stuff, but we cluster them. We treat them as one. We find out they've got 5 hectares if you cluster them. In terms of even the production, they get the production plan from NMC or from NAMPORT. It's kind of organized. We need to organize them at that level. Because the nice thing with the partnering with the NMC and NAMPORT, they already have got technical people, extension officers on the ground to support them.
We know, CEO, that some of the small and medium enterprises have challenges in paying their loans. What different initiatives are you doing that this fund continues to be a revolving one?
We have made some improvements to ensure that we shorten the loan processes. We have basically implemented a loan management system, kind of digitalized, which is then the other thing. If you recall, we have already discussed this with you in terms of other key improvements which are aligned to our strategy. It's around the continuous loan applications. We no longer do cyclical. The other one is around bringing the services very close to the young people through decentralization of our services. We have opened as well regional offices, and in addition to that, we have now opened satellite offices at Pikespeak, Estobela, and Hlatikulu. So these are improvements. We are looking at other areas such as Buhleni to say that we can bring, because I think Buhleni is now vibrant. We've got a lot of young people to service the young people along that corridor. So we are looking at that. I think the most important thing, which is we are going through those amendments, is the changes in our regulations, key amendments on the regulation to say, let's bring most of these functions which were currently basically performed by our intermediary, financial intermediary, as per the regulations in-house. That will, one, improve the time it takes or shorten the time it takes to complete the loan processes. The second one, it will also assist us in improving the collection. I think we started last year to bring the in-house, to bring the collection in-house. But we want to make those amendments very, very, very clear. So the issue around the loan repayment, it's putting the fund at risk. The poor repayment rates, which we are saying currently, it's sitting around 50% in terms of our collection rate. It's just about 50%. We are coming from a very low rate of 18%, which means we appreciate the response we are also receiving from the young people when we are doing follow-up. Some of them are paying, some of them they've never defaulted, some of them they've already settled their loans. I think it was more of an internal issue rather than the young people in terms of to say they need to be followed up. We need to have a collection system which will check on an ongoing basis and follow up. However, we've seen also a culture where some of them, they're doing very, very well in their businesses, but they are not willing to pay. I think it's a mentality issue, an entitlement issue, which we believe it has to change. And we are trying to encourage them to come forward to pay. We are open. Our office is open to understand their challenges. We have also come up with a policy of restructuring and rescheduling the loans.
Unfortunately, CEO, I've got 10 minutes on Enterprise Watch, but let's hope that young people will embrace this insurance as climate change continues to disrupt weather patterns. We will see more sectors getting the chance to have this insurance.
That was our business journalist Nilsiwe Njangamandla in conversation with the YEF CEO. Let's drive straight into our market analysis. And here we are, our market analysis. Sanele Sbia joins us virtually to help us decode the rates of the day. Sanele, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the program. A quick roundup, if you will, in the interest of time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Numado, and good afternoon to the viewer. So what we're seeing today on the markets, Mr. Nxumalo, is a very positive, it's a very positive mood. In the US, we're seeing, all stocks rebounding from the losses that we saw yesterday, gaining the 317 points in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. That's because what we're seeing right now is, one, we've seen President Trump hold on certain tariffs, mainly against Canada and against Mexico. So that has actually breathed some sigh of relief into the markets, showing that at least the uncertainty is not going to kick in right now. Probably it's going to kick in a bit later. So also we are waiting for, the major tech players to post their earnings today. We're expecting Amazon to post their earnings today, and also we're expecting, the Ralph Lauren, those big apparel companies as well, to post their earnings today. And markets are a bit optimistic on that one. Then moving across the pond into London, what we're experiencing again is, there is that positive note in London. And we were expecting the Bank of London to actually, Bank of England to actually come out and state their monetary policy stance today. And we've already had the news coming out of London that those rates were actually cut by some 25 basis points. And markets have actually responded quite positively to that, with the FTSE 100 moving up to 8,700 in all trade volumes, and then with the CAC in France, in Paris, moving closer to that 8,000 mark, Mr. Nxumalo, and we should expect it to get to that mark when we see what the European Central Bank is going to do in terms of the interest rates next week. And the news of that Trump restraint for now on Canada and Mexico is actually really boding well with the markets. Coming into Japan, again, we are seeing that positive mood coming out of Wall Street, also reverberating into the Asian markets. We're seeing the Nikkei climbing up to the 39,000 mark, gaining some 235 points in today's trade. Same thing in Hong Kong. We're seeing the Hang Seng gaining some 294 points in today's trade, coming up to the 20,091 mark in terms of all trade volumes. Again, in Shanghai, we are seeing the mainland also reacting positively to those news. When the US, reacts positively, that means that demand is also going to be sustained in the long term, and that's what the Chinese automakers the Chinese manufacturers are looking into. At that point, we've also seen China also exercising some restraint in terms of those tariffs, and we've seen President Trump as well coming up to say, you need to register with the CPD in order for you to not to get affected this much by these tariffs. So we're seeing the trade war playing out, but not playing out at the level we wanted we expected it to happen. And then coming into South Africa, what we're seeing is, on the background of that State of the Nation address, which is expected to come tonight, we're seeing markets reacting positively to that, back on that 87,000 mark. Because there is a lot of anticipation on what the Government of National Unity is going to do. This will be their very first State of the Nation address. And also there was news coming out of Washington, that positive note in Washington, in Wall Street, is also coming into play within the South African markets. And we're not seeing any changes in the domestic markets. The Eswatini Stock Exchange is still stable at around 4,489 in terms of all trade volumes. When we come into commodities, gold is actually closed at an all-time high at that 2,800 mark. Remember, we're predicting that we should hit that 2,900 mark, even get closer to the 3,000 mark as we round up Trump's first 100 days and his policies becoming clearer. So that uncertainty in the market is actually showing in that upward surge in the price of gold. And then Brent crude remains relatively stable at that 75,000 mark, at that 75 mark $75 per barrel. Purely because we're seeing that in the Middle East things are happening in Gaza, but what markets are actually mulling over is this one of President Trump out of the deal, where he says, where he uses this anchoring strategy where he takes people north when he knows that he wants to get south, right? So we've seen him do that with Canada. it's clear there that what he wanted was that border deal. And as soon as they gave him that border deal, he reneged on those tariffs. And then coming into the currencies, what we're seeing there is a bit of strength in the lilangeni, because we're moving to that zona against the dollar and also against the euro, with a bit of strength again against the Japanese yen, coming to that 8 malangeni 20 for one Japan for one one Japanese yen is worth 8 malangeni 20 cents in today's trade. Thank you, Mr. Nini.
Thank you, Sanele. Thank you to our viewers as well for staying with us on the program. That was our market analysis, courtesy of Sanele Sbia, our in-house economist. Have yourself a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye.
Girls from playing in female sports, even in schools. The executive order itself does not have the power to immediately ban trans women and girls from sports, but it does threaten to pull funding. Here's more of what the president had to say.
Female athletes have been forced onto the front lines, and men claiming to be girls have stolen more than 3,500 victories. That's a lot. And invaded more than 11,000 competitions designed for women.
Well, critics of that executive order, though, say it will be damaging to trans youth in middle school and high school. They also say Trump has got the numbers wrong.
First of all, the numbers they don't exist. Understand that there's 0.01% gender variant people living in our society as a whole. So it's a very tiny grouping of people that he's actually targeting. And certainly the numbers in terms of gender performance are filled with inaccuracies as well. To project such misinformation, not just in the United States, but globally on such an issue that has it has a tremendous impact in the United States, but also worldwide.
Now, Rwandan-backed rebels have gained ground in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. After seizing Goma, they have reportedly now taken a mining town in South Kivu province in what looks to be a violation of a unilateral ceasefire declared this week. The capture of Nyabibwe on Lake Kivu takes the M23 rebels one step closer to the provincial capital Bukavu, a city the rebels previously had said they had no intention of capturing. A crisis meeting is planned for this weekend between DRC President Felix Tshisekedi and his Rwandan counterpart, Paul Kagame, alongside other regional leaders. Well, Paris is gearing up for a two-day global summit on artificial intelligence that's to be held next week at the beautiful Grand Palais. Representatives from 80 countries, including world leaders, tech bosses, academics, and other experts, will be talking about the current state and the future of AI.